sneaking up on the start of the National Hockey League season. This is InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Langley, with the co-founders of InGoal magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. We are going to get into a couple of little nuances of the position in just a little bit. And our feature interview will deal with somebody from the Western Hockey League, a prospect from the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vaughn V10 chesties are gear seving this week as we get Woody all dressed up with Cam over at the Hockey Shop. I love it when you wear the chesties in the gear segments. I must admit that.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I like playing dress up. I'm not going to lie. It's one of my highlights when we're at the Hockey Shop is making sure I get to try stuff on. And I was impressed with the Vaughn V10 chest protector. So I can't wait to bring you to the Hockey Shop and share that with you. I should say, if you know how it works, Darren, we get something new, it means other stuff's on sale, and they've got a lot of items on sale right now at the Hockey Shop. If you check out the website, thehockeyshop.com, they went from the back to school sale to, do you know it's Thanksgiving up here coming up?
The real Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the real one, the Canadian one, not whatever goes down there in the States.
Get the second one with the free meal with the good meal.
Exactly. Yeah. So up here, folks, it's the real Thanksgiving, and that means there's even more savings at the Hockey Shop. So make sure you check them out. Tons of stuff on sale, tons of new stuff. The only place to buy your gear is the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. And of course, a big part of that is our friend Cam, who will answer any and all questions you have about size, style, fit, and not just fit in terms of, how many inches is it from here to here and does it fit my height, but does it fit your game, which, as we know as goaltenders, is an extremely important part of that equipment buying decision. And Cam and his crew can make sure that you make the right decision, the right read, so to speak, when you're buying new gear.
I have worn the Vaughn chesty in the past. I have a couple of questions about the V10 specific to this model that I will save for when we go down that path with Cam. I was going through some stats the other day and teeing up this season with my role in Vegas, and I realized, confirmed by you guys, that Adin Hill is the tallest goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. 6'6". You guys were aware of that, but if for some reason it really jumps out at me that 6'6" is the tallest in an era of big goaltenders. For some reason, I thought there would have been somebody as big or bigger.
You say we're aware of it, but I sort of got embarrassed when I was trying to sound like a smart aleck and bust out some trivia. Pretty sure it was on the ice at Eli Wilson's camp up in Edmonton this summer. I apologize to the young goaltender I was talking with. I can't remember which one of you it was, but I busted out my usual trivia. Hey, did you know there's only 2 goaltenders who've ever won the Stanley Cup at 6'4" or taller? And the kid looked at me and he said, Adin Hill, right away. Okay, so there's more than I thought of. And I thought it was only 6'4". I know in some of our chats earlier, we've now gone back and I thought it was only 2 at the time. It was a great trivia question. It was only Matt Murray and Ken Dryden. And then it seems that Andrei Vasilevsky's height has been updated to a much more truthful 6'4". I'm sure it was 6'3" last time I looked, or about a year ago. So not sure when that was done. But it still is a really interesting point, though, isn't it, Darren, that we see this as an era of really big goaltenders. Maybe the fact that 6'4" doesn't seem all that tall anymore speaks volumes about what the era of big goaltenders is, but I think it's also really interesting that, Adin Hill at 6'6" is the tallest, and nobody that height other than him is, you might imagine that there would have been a lot of guys at 6'5", 6'6", but not the case, and not the case with the Vezina Trophy either, is it, Woody?
Well, no, but it's becoming increasingly the case, at least the 6'4" margin, right? Like forever, it was Ken Dryden, and Ken Dryden alone was the only 6'4" goaltender to win the Vezina Trophy up until Pekka Rinne in 2018 at 6'5". But as you mentioned, Vasilevsky gained an inch on his official measurements, so add him to the mix. Connor Hellebuck in 2020 at 6'4", and Linus Ullmark's listed at 6'4" as well. So, after going all those years between Ken Dryden and Pekka Rinne, we've now got 4 of the past 6 goaltenders to win the Vezina Trophy are 6'4" or taller. So maybe all that talk about tall goaltenders is finally coming home to roost, at least when it comes to the Vezina.
Just to confirm, the Stanley Cup tallest goaltenders to win, it's 6'6" Adin Hill, and then a couple of guys at 6'4".
That's right. Well, Vasilevsky, Murray, and Dryden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm surprised that there's just 4 guys, 6'4" or above, that have won the Stanley Cup. Now the Vezina has an equally varied number of winners. Like there's a broad spectrum of guys. It's not somebody winning 5 straight Vezina Trophy winners. So maybe that's the start, and then we'll get to championship goaltenders being 6'5", 6'6" as a regular thing.
Well, listen, like, let's be honest, on the Vezina Trophy front, like, as we increasingly see teams pursue large goaltenders, there's not going to be.
It should lead into it.
There's not going to be a lot of small goalies that are getting the opportunities to win Vezina trophies. Although I would argue the prime case in point, who wasn't even a finalist this year, and don't get me started on the freaking absurdity of that general manager's. Not sure what statistics you were looking at from a proprietary standpoint, but UC Saros absolutely should have finished second in the Vezina voting this year and wasn't even a finalist. And he is a long ways from 6'4". So there's hope for us little guys yet.
A regression in the trend. That's what you're hoping for.
Well, listen, hey, speaking of regressions in the trend, like, look at Dustin Wolf, 2-time American Hockey League goaltender of the year, American Hockey League MVP, and on the subject of news, will start this season in the American Hockey League as well. Was, I think, a little surprised, although I get it from an asset management standpoint. He didn't have to clear waivers to see
waivers.
Dustin headed down to the Calgary Wranglers instead of being up with the Calgary Flames. Another one that probably caught a few people off guard. Spencer Knight today sent down to the American Hockey League by the Florida Panthers. Anthony Stolarz will start the season as the backup to Bob with the big club in Florida. And listen,
another waiver situation, right?
Doesn't require waivers, but has a big ticket, $4.5 million salary cap wise. There's repercussions there. And I just want to say, though, don't care where he plays as long as it's the best thing for him in terms of getting back into rhythm and getting back onto the ice and playing and fully recovered from what kept him out of the league last year. When it comes to Spencer Knight, to me, I don't even know how to say it. It's not about the fact he ended up getting sent down. It's just whatever's good for him is all you want, right? You just want good things for that kid right now.
When it comes to Dustin Wolf, he's been the best goaltender in his league 4 years in a row. Whatever league he's been in, he's been named best goaltender of that league. That's unprecedented.
It is incredible. It's incredible that he is where he is. That's a situation I'm sure they will have had to manage very carefully with him. But I guess if you're him, you look at it as they're being really careful to manage an asset that I hope one day helps make the team in front of me a little bit better. And that would certainly be the really mature way to handle things for him. I'm not sure that we would all have been so calm and collected if we'd done everything we'd done and certainly earned a chance to play in the National Hockey League.
And it's a technical aspect through the CBA that makes it an asset gained by sending Wolf down and keeping Vladar, because the waiver exposure or non-exposure situation. Did you guys see Marc-Andre Fleury in the shootout in the preseason game in which he went up against Connor Bedard and then Taylor Hall? Like, that is a YouTube moment waiting to happen.
Hey, listen, poke check's a lost art. As much as I'd say keep your head up, kid, because it's coming when Flowers in there. Connor Bedard pretty much always has his head up, but as these guys come in and stick handle super slow and super close, I think it's great to see Flowers sort of like drop one knee, fake like he's going down to one side, drop a knee, and just sort of counteract it a little bit, and love the poke check, right? Like, letting a guy just sort of deke into within a couple of feet of you and just sitting there not doing anything. I like the aggression by Marc-Andre Fleury. Didn't love the move by Taylor Hall. I know Flower tripped him on the way in, but it's freaking preseason. And if you're choosing a path in a shootout in the preseason that puts you on top of the goaltender, you can go for yourself, quite frankly.
Strong comments from Kevin Woodley. I enjoyed the third shooter. I can't remember who that was. My apologies. But he shot the rebound, and Flower wasn't having any of that. I think Marc-Andre was more upset about the rebound chance than it was about Taylor Hall brushing side.
Yeah, or maybe he's just being a bit of a showman in the situation. Maybe he wasn't upset at all. He was just sort of handing it right back to him. But either way, it was awesome. I also loved the way he controlled the Bedard shot. as Woody mentioned, going down to one knee, but there were sort of multiple moves and fakes and stick moves and taking charge of the situation instead of passively waiting for something to be done to him. I think it's something that we can all learn from.
I would have been petrified. I would have been thinking about, I'm going to end up with 4,000 million views on YouTube after this happens. And I would have psyched myself completely out. Marc-Andre might be the perfect guy to experience something like that.
But isn't he? Because he's probably thinking to himself, here, I can have those 4,000 million views on YouTube because I took control of the situation and I won. An ultimate competitor, an ultimate battler seizes the moment to take charge. It was really cool. Love watching it. Do you think, Darren, you were bringing something up earlier when we weren't online about worried in preseason that these superstars would bust out all their wild moves and maybe do some things that they wouldn't do during the regular season? Do you think if we
because I would do it if I was a shooter.
Yeah, no. So I'm wondering if we actually looked at the data, are there more dekes than shots in the preseason compared to the regular season? Something like that. I'd love to know what that is, because I've actually often thought about that in practice. You know how many coaches will give their team an opportunity just to take some breakaways near the end of practice as a fun way to wrap up a session. Everybody loves it. The goalies love the competition. The players love to break out their moves. And I often think when I watch it, I would wish that a coach would make it mandatory to an extent that you have to shoot at least once out of 3, because everybody wants to try their cool moves, but then the goalies are sitting on those cool moves. They know there's not going to be a shot. They play a little deeper. I don't think those situations are as useful for a goaltender to learn as maybe they could be if you had that option of shot versus goal in practice. So then when you brought that up about the preseason versus regular season, I just wondered, is there something we could look at to tell if they really are doing that? Because I bet you're right.
I would expect that there would be a higher ratio of dekes because of the lack of consequences. Mm-hmm. And you're going to try something. And that's what the preseason is about anyway. If you're a veteran player, try something.
Sure.
So why not go down that path?
For sure. It makes all the sense in the world in the context of the preseason. And we're there to entertain fans as well. So in maybe not the most exciting time of year for fans watching games, it's a chance to spice things up a little bit. Maybe they should even add a few shots to the shootout during preseason or something to make it a little bit more fun. But in terms of the practice situation I was talking about, I just find it's not as useful for young goaltenders as it probably could be.
I think in the preseason, they should tack a chaser onto the shootout and make it more exciting. That's how you add a little bit of a sizzle.
Try all those 3-on-3 rules or all the some of the rules they brought into the European leagues this year. The Champions League. Could try some of those in the preseason, give everybody a taste.
I would love that. What do you guys got going over at InGoalMag.com?
We've got a pro read up this week with Thatcher Demko, his 10th now. So if you haven't gotten yourself...
Is that a league leader? Is that a clubhouse leader?
It's close.
No, Jake Allen's got to be up there between we got him from St. Louis and Montreal, but Demmer's getting up there for sure.
Yeah, we got a couple guys in double digits, but if you'd like to find out, just head over to InGoalMag.com. There is a Pro Reads menu at the top that will take you so that you can check out all the different Pro Reads from, I think it's about 38 goaltenders now that have sat down with us, and primarily with Kevin, and getting up there towards 200 Pro Reads available now. So this one from Thatcher Demko is kind of a cool one, kind of maybe a little controversial. It's a chance for you to take a look and ask yourself, would I play it that way? Or as a goalie coach, would I teach my goaltenders to play things that way? Pretty hard to argue with Ian Clark, one of the best in the business. And this is the way he teaches recovering into your post on a shot that has come from low or come off the rush and then gone down low, and it's being handled by a guy below the goal line. How do you get back into your post into the reverse? This one's called a zigzag recovery, just to give you a little tease to see what that might be like.
It sounds like it would be easier than the alternative. Like and it's happening fast, and maybe the efficiency would be the biggest controversial element to it. But from every goaltender being able to do it, it sounds like the quickest fashion to be able to get back into your post.
Probably is. We got to see my son Matty learning it up at Net 360 last summer when Richard Bachman, who's done a lot of work with Ian Clark, of course, was teaching the same thing to him off the rush. And it was a bit of a change because we're all trained to lift the leg on the opposite side of where the puck has just gone, proper leg recovery. And this is using the exact opposite leg. But when you start thinking about keeping your chest up ice where the next threat is probably going to come from, it makes a whole lot of sense. Some people think that you should have the skating skill to still recover to your post when you're working with the other leg and just a little bit of a long swing in. Demko doesn't think turning his chest away from the front of the net is a good plan in that situation. Certainly a skilled skater can learn it. Yeah. It makes sense to me, as he says, and I think that's the important thing. It still comes down to a read. He's done it the other way. There are times he does it the other way. And that's why I think these pro reads are so fantastic, because you can don't just go and mindlessly watch them. They're set up so that you can ask yourself the question, what would I do? How would I handle this situation? And then as Thatcher brings up the point that there's some cases he would do it differently. Well, ask yourself, what might happen in a game that might make me choose to do it a little bit differently? When would it be the right read? Getting actively engaged in the content and your own learning is without doubt the best way to learn. Or if, as we discovered this summer, that Marco Raimondo sits down with his students in Montreal, Devin Levi being one of them, and regularly sits down and watches our pro reads with the goaltenders. And it's not just watch this guys learn what they said. Now let's engage in a discussion. Do you all agree with it? Who would do things differently? So maybe as a goalie coach, you can sit down with your tandem or with several goaltenders that you work with, or goalies, sit down with your partner and just have a discussion about these things, because it's a great way to have some fun over a great position and a great way to learn together.
Well said.
You're very agreeable today.
I am.
Except for the other part.
Well, there's a reason Woody's not happy with the Taylor Hall shootout move the other day, because maybe Woody's been clipped in the head a few times too often, including this week. So he's playing things just a little bit quiet over there.
Yeah, Taylor Hall and this crap coming through the net and knocking goalies out.
Well, probably F a few guys in your local beer league too. I think you really mean.
Yeah, true. Okay, although the one that ultimately has left me with the symptoms I have right now was my own fault. I reached out for a poke check on a guy cutting off the wing, and his knee went through my ear. So that's my fault. I got to take blame on that. Woody, at our age,
if you try a poke check like that, the chances are you're not getting up whether somebody runs into you or not.
No, yeah, 100%.
At our age, are we not trying to take the feet out a little bit too? Just if we're going to try that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
I am.
I mean,
certainly if you miss the puck, you better be taking something.
Yeah, I'm tripping them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I guess you are, but when you trip them into you, it's probably not the smartest move, is it?
Well, good for you to admit that maybe you should retire that save selection.
Well, hey, listen, I got to admit, the one that ultimately left me feeling like this was my fault. The one the week before, that guy can go F himself, quite frankly. Like, that's the Tuesday night, 10 o'clock. I think I'm game 7, and he actually concussed me last year with the same move. Honestly, like, this guy thinks there's scouts in the stands there, and he figures he's getting the call up to Vegas every freaking year. Comes around the corner, puts his head down, has no chance of cutting back above the crease, and just goes right through the goalie. It's an asshat move in a 40-plus league, and his ribs may have ended up broken by the end of the game, so we won't have to worry about him for a while, will we?
With Rink Barn, rinkbarn.com or .net, whatever it is, scouts don't even have to be in the stands. They can just be watching the random 10 o'clock game.
Oh, you know they're watching,
looking for that talent.
You know they are. And 100%, it's the guy with the bad, greasy, long hair, tinted visor, and 69 on the back that's 9 times out of 10 going to be pulling these moves. And sure enough, he had at least one of the 3.
Record for beeps. I think we're up to 3 now. What is
asshat doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
I can get away with that one.
That keeps us at 3.
We'll let the head producer decide what words count, because I get to put the beeps in. That's up to me.
I'm on a high beep ratio today. My beep per 60 is through the roof.
I think we're headed for a podcast record today.
Listen, like I said, Hutch knows there's a concussion history there, and it sucks to have one again, and I'm not feeling very good. So all those guys that round the corner and come in hard can go I'll just let Hutch throw a beep in there.
The Sense Arena feature interview, Ty Young from the Prince George Cougars. Looking forward to getting to know him a little bit. They are off to a fantastic start, and I've talked to a few of my friends in and around the Western Hockey League, and they're excited and really intrigued about the Prince George Cougars becoming that team. And that's a franchise that hasn't had a lot of big years in it, and this could be one of those seasons headed up for PG. So Ty Young standing by. But first, our gear segment brought to you by The Hockey Shop. TheHockeyShop.com, source for sports Langley. We're dealing with the Vaughn V10 chesty this week as we bring in Cam, who's standing by with the suited up Kevin Woodley. Guys.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're here in Goalie Utopia, surrounded by all the latest, as well as a lot of price things that are on discount as the latest arrive. So make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com for all their back to hockey sale prices. But right now, we're on to something new, the Vaughn V10 chest protector, a unit that we haven't heard a lot about, but some features that you really like, Cam. So hit me up, walk me through it. I've got it on. I'm playing dress up. You know, this is my favorite part of the day.
And that's slick red and black colorway, I might add.
That's a Hockey Shop special, red and black colorway.
No, it's just redder. That's not the shop colors anymore. That changed.
I'll try and keep up.
You should.
You try and tell me what the hell's going on with the Vaughn V10 chest.
So, new for this season. A bit more of a redesign, even from the V9. So again, building off of some Vaughn staples that, you know, for the most part, those velocity wearers have come to know.
Let's just identify the staples, because there might be some people out there that aren't maybe, you know, like they're new to they haven't worn one before. So what are some of the attributes that we commonly associate with a Vaughn chest protector?
High shoulders, tapered body, fits nice and snugly around, but can be worn loose to puff it out if desired.
I definitely desire puffed out and looking big.
So what I would say, though, in my opinion, I find this chest does play a little bit better when it is tighter against the body. So heads up for you guys that, you know, tuck in. This is definitely one to check out for sure. Can it be worn outside? 100%. Does it start to get a little janky? Maybe. That I mean, again, it depends on how you're wearing it, what your personal preference is, and this, that, and the other.
But shouldn't be surprised that it might play a little better tucked in, tight to the body, because this is a unit, or this is, we talk about the characteristics of a Vaughn chest protector. Mm-hmm. Mobility, something that's connected to your body. Those are things that goalies like in their Vaughn chest protectors, that they've come to expect from their Vaughn chest protectors.
Yes.
Mobility, maybe like on that sliding scale of mobility and protection, it's going to lean towards the mobility side. Still protective, but you might feel the odd puck in this compared to
Yes, but they've also taken some big strides to continue to actually reinforce the stock unit.
Well, let's go through them.
So, I mean, even all the way throughout the arms, your high impact zones, you're going to find their HD carbon material. Anything that's been labeled pro carbon, again, you're going to find Vaughn's carbon sheets in them. So that's going to be elephant, forearm, bicep, into the shoulder floaters. The actual chest blocks themselves are featuring Kevlar. So you're definitely multi-protected. The blocks themselves, the way they design it is create some good flexibility to the chest once that kind of softens up and breaks in a little bit more. So again, that's continuing with that idea of that mobility, like you're not really feeling the chest on you. It's just kind of more of an extension of your body itself.
Again, I've got it kind of loose right now, so you're seeing it move around a little bit on me, but you can sort of see, like, you know, that mobility and range. This is like fresh off the rack. Like, yeah, we kind of do this, but, you know, it's really where our hands out in front of us. Can we cradle pucks? And there's a lot of that mobility sort of built into this, even just coming straight off the rack.
Correct. So next, when you actually move on to the adjustment features of the chest itself, some of the things have kind of changed, some have stayed the same. So Vaughn has included the way that they do their shoulder floaters from the V9 back down to the V10 with a bit more adjustments. So this entire shoulder plate itself actually independently adjusts from the rest of the unit. So the ability to have that shoulder sit up a little bit more, create a little bit extra size if you're looking to, some extra height.
I like that.
Or if you want it nicely rounded, you can definitely haul that back and bring that shoulder down to create that rounded appearance, depending on your desired preference.
And the way they've sort of seamed the blocks up there, it wraps right around. It doesn't, you know, again, you can sit it up if you want.
The segmentation.
Segmentation.
That's
There's
what
the
you were
word
looking
I'm
for.
looking for.
It's
Good
all
thing
right.
I'm an English major.
Today's word of the day, segmentation. So Arms, we're back to a laced-in construction now. Previously, before, it was actually held on by Velcro. So a little bit more of stock. This is how it fits kind of thing. So we technically lose a little bit of adjustment there, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
So lace-in, it's fixed is what you're telling me? I can't see it right now.
Yes. So. Instead of popping your arms through and having the arms rip off the chest in like fully off, this way everything kind of stays on. It does make it a little bit cleaner in terms of for getting it set up. Overall, in terms of for fitment wise, when it comes to the back, like I said, we touched on that Velcro, just a standard black paint design. Having this independent shoulder cap, though, the way it does sit, does help to stop the chest from actually riding up in the back. Before, in some of the older Velocity units, we used to see that kind of almost humpback, kind of happen. This helps to prevent that. To be honest, great overall feel-wise, nice rounded shoulders. Again, that good kind of stock fit off of the back. As you can see, he can definitely move around quite easy. So cool little sneaky feature that I really like, if Kevin turns around. Tucked in behind, actual shoulder floater itself, there's actually a little button. So as opposed to putting it on top of the shoulder floater, there's a little button in here for your suspenders to help lock them in. So as you're, say, tucking in your chest, or even if you leave it out in front, but you run your suspenders over top of your chest, this helps to lock it in kind of just behind that sternum plate right there, and helps to keep them secure. So a nice little cool feature worth calling out. So
hold on. How do I do it? Oh, I see. Now show me that side.
And then, just, like that, right?
So I can have it up through here.
Exactly. So, Vaughn V10 Pro Carbon Chest. You can check it out at thehockeyshop.com, or you can give me a call. 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
Doesn't even need me anymore, folks. Doesn't even need me.
No, don't
If
forget.
you've got questions, make sure you ask them. Fitment. I always say call Cam, and as much as I'd love for you to just continuously annoy him, the reality is he was out of town recently, and I came in here, and they had two of his other goalie specialists. Everybody who works in the goalie department. I'm not good with names, Cam. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Clearly. So what he's saying is that give any of us a call.
They're all good at what they do, and they understand goalie. As a matter of fact, I would say it's the most efficient I've seen this department run while you were away. So good job on the hiring, Cam, of the other guys.
Management.
Can't believe I forgot the name.
Like and subscribe.
Okay, to my questions, and I've worn Vaughn chesties a lot over the years. The current one that I had was a hand-me-down from Oscar Dansk when he was with the Vegas Golden Knights organization, and there was a slight bruise factor, I guess, but it's so easy and so smooth to move in. I have a lot of trouble getting out of it because of its comfort level, and I wear it out, and I promised myself I would never do that. But one area was the arms and then the forearms that I was trying to model down. It sounds like they've addressed a lot of that, Woody.
Well, I mean, it has sort of been traditionally, there's a spectrum, right? There's a range between protection and mobility, and Vaughn's always on that sliding scale aired towards the mobility side. And so goalies at the highest level have sort of always accepted that they would feel a few more pucks, that they'd feel a few more bruises. Now, I know the one you have from Oscar Dansk, I would assume, has been beefed up from what you might get at retail. And, sounds like, according to Cam, they've addressed that. And certainly wearing it in the video, the mobility was clear. And if the protection is also there, then that's a plus. But you're right. Traditionally, there are other units that you associate more with protection, particularly in the arms, other units, other brands, but perhaps not as mobile out of the box. So if Vaughn has edged towards protection as well without sacrificing that mobility, it's good for them. Now real easy to talk this, and I trust Cam's expertise. We do, but the reality is we haven't tested it. So firsthand knowledge, I can't tell you. And what you're wearing, Darren, as much as you're still feeling pucks in that, you're also facing NHL shooters. And, I'm
and mine's a couple of years old, models old. It admittedly is.
And it's probably beefed up. There's no way Oscar Dansk is heading out there in the National Hockey League in a retail model. So it's probably got extra protection in the arms, but you never know, right? Because this is the reality. This is the reality. we talk a lot about equipment as if it's the same thing being worn in the National Hockey League, and very rarely is it. And that includes a lot of pads, a lot of gloves. There's always little specs, unique things that NHL guys have that they want from their past that they most often get. So there are exceptions to that, but quite often, especially when we're talking about chest protectors, what you see in the National Hockey League is not what you're buying off the rack at the store.
My question to you, and I've thought this over a couple of times, but never had the cojones to really go down this path. When you do these segments, which are also on YouTube, you and Cam, and you're wearing the chesties, are you wearing a size bigger than you normally would just to have more mobility for the actual segment?
It's a good question. There are times where Cam brings me an extra large, like after Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, and some turkey, and definitely more than one of those Costco
I would wear a
pumpkin
size
pies.
bigger because I want to be able to look like I can move around. I don't want to be like...
Often when Kevin's sporting a few extra LBs, Cam will bring out a larger size and throw a few chirps out there. Usually I'm in a large in most of these models, but every once in a while he'll throw me in an XL. I can't remember what it was with the Vaughn, but I think it was a large. I think it was the accurate model, because you don't want to look like you're swimming in it either, right? Like that doesn't sort of show the brand properly either if it's too big for you and visibly too big for you. So we usually try and get it into the large range, which is what I fit with most brands. Now, if we were to try and get Cam to wear it, you know, to get it around his fat ass, we're talking
Careful,
at least a
grumpy
double.
boy.
At least talking at least double
There's
extra
another
large.
beep.
Oh
Well,
my gosh, Woody.
It's probably more the size of the head. To get the neck hole around the size of that guy's head requires a little work.
I feel better getting that off my chest, though, because I've wanted to ask and I just haven't found the right time or the confidence to be able to go down that path with you.
It brings me the kid sizes sometimes just to get a little frisky in there.
I think Darren is accusing us of being like those food photographers who work for McDonald's and make your Big Mac look like it's this beautiful, luscious hamburger before you get this flat little pathetic thing arriving.
I was thinking what I would do in this situation.
Yeah.
I would go bigger for more mobility and make it look like I'm like all over the place. They just reaction. I can drink coffee. I can do anything with that on, as opposed to one that's brand new out of the wrapper and I can't quite get my arm up because it hasn't been broken in.
Nothing but the real authentic deal at InGoal
That's
magazine.
great for you. I love this from...
And if I was going to cheat, am I going to cheat and make a company that owes us money look better? Probably not. I would do it with a company that doesn't have unpaid bills with us. So that's how you know the Vaughn was the real size.
That is a declaration of all declarations. Thank you for going down that path. And for everybody that's wondering if he's just putting on a show or whether he's really cranky, I think we can confirm. But second this if you want, Hutch, but I'm going to confirm that this is the authentic Woody today. This is not a show that he's just putting on for the sake of clicks.
The happy, smiley Woodley that you normally get on this show.
Yeah.
That's the one that's been gussied up for production. This is the real Woody. This is what we get 6 or 7 days a week. Is grumpy old Gus here. Yeah.
Concussion symptom Woody is the real Woody. Let's be honest. I've had enough of them at this point that probably is my true personality.
PG Cougars, a great start to the Western Hockey League season, backed by Ty Young, the 2022 fifth rounder of the Vancouver Canucks, standing by in the green room, ready to join Woody, who's going to turn it around. He's going to flip the switch with Ty and be as professional as we've ever heard our good friend Kevin Woodley. But first, the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR, and continue to see all kinds of great advancements in the experience of going down Sense Arena and facing these shooters through your headset.
Yeah, one of the best things that we talk about all the time is Sense Arena is continuously updated. And in fact, I was talking to a parent this week who reached out looking at getting Sense Arena for his son to help him step up to the next level this year, as he already has with the team he's playing for. And I just love the fact that we have something new to talk about with them so frequently. Many times a year, you'll put on the headset, the software's been updated, they're bringing new features to it. And I will just say, without getting into too much, that we have a meeting booked with our friends at Sense Arena this week so that we can have a conversation about all the NHL features that are coming to Sense Arena soon. They want to really begin to highlight all the great NHL collaborations that they've got. And I'm just going to leave it at that. There's more coming. However, if you do want to use the best off-ice training tool to help you become a better goaltender, if you want to graduate from juggling and bouncing balls off the wall to facing NHL shooters, to seeing power plays evolve in front of you, to doing some incredible neurocognitive drills, get Sense Arena. If you've already got an Oculus headset, you can go to sensearena.com today and grab a 7-day free trial. If you don't, it's probably time to grab it, because you're going to love the whole virtual reality world out there. There is so many great things you can do with it. And one of them happens to be Sense Arena, which is available either monthly or annually for a huge savings. I think it's 28%. And they've also got now a couple of different levels. So you can try the sort of beginner intro to it, where you get a reduction in the number of drills and things that are available to you, training plans as well. And then you can also get the pro version, where you've got multiple rinks you can go in, more and more training plans from professional coaches, all the drills, all the NHL shooters, like the full deal. It's less than a private lesson with a goaltending coach, and you can use it every single day. Just a great investment for you and your son or daughter if you want to become the best goalie you can.
And the best part is there's no 40-year-old idiots coming around the corner and running you through the end boards. Maybe I should just stick with Sense Arena and do no other goaltending at this point.
I have a workout plan tonight. I call them workouts when I go on Sense Arena. I actually,
do you sweat?
I do, and I count the calories, because I do the cardio thing on the watch, and try to keep track of what the heart rate is and what the calorie usage is, and it's way more than you would think by just putting on a headset. The overall mind and body and getting involved with the heart rate is significant, even though you're not putting on the gear and you're not on the ice and you're not bouncing around. So that's the way I go about it. And I just have one question, because I'm on a roll with asking questions that I've ever asked. For those that don't know and aren't aware of the language, when you mention neurocognitive sessions, what is that, Hutch?
It's a great word that makes me sound intelligent.
It is. It is.
It's brain training.
Yeah.
Okay, but what goes into the brain training?
It's things that people might have called hand-eye coordination or eye-hand coordination drills. It's things like you've seen the old school light board where lights come on and you've got to hit them. They've got a
the
similar...
Formula One guys use that all the time.
Yeah, they do. You've got a similar drill in Sense Arena. They've got some where you have to track a puck and try and catch it. They've got some where the lights go out midstream to work on your tracking. There's all sorts of different drills there just to work on how you are processing things.
Processing.
In
that
your
was the
brain.
Word. That's a word
and
I was
thinking about them. Neuro, brain, cognitive thinking. Putting the two things together. But it's a really big word, and I probably couldn't spell it.
How do you think you spell it?
I don't know, but...
NEUROCOGNITIVE.
I did it right. But is neurocognitive the same word, or is there a hyphen in there?
I believe there's a dash in between.
I like the dash.
I'm all about the
I'll
dash.
go with the dash.
I got dash 11 on a spelling test in senior year of high school.
So we're not asking you.
Yeah, dash 11, negative 11 out of 100. So there you go.
I'm not sure how you do that. Don't you just get them wrong?
The teacher took 1 mark off for each of the first 5 you get wrong, and then 2 marks off for each of the next 5, and so on and so on. And somehow that worked out to negative 11.
Wow. And you didn't even have a concussion like Woody.
I didn't have the worst mark in the class either.
Are you more concussed or angry today, Woody?
They kind of tend to go hand in hand. I have a fuse that's about a 1/4 inch long when I'm in this state.
I'm not laughing at you.
I know you're laughing with me, buddy. That's the only reason I haven't tried to stab you through the computer.
That's a 1/4 inch shorter than his regular fuse.
Because I enjoy this side of Woody. I rarely get to see it. And Cranky Woody is entertaining Woody to me.
Cranky Woody is
probably not to everybody else, but to me, Cranky Woody keeps me.
I've known him so long that he doesn't even say anything cranky in text messages, and I can still tell that he's cranky.
It's fair. It's fair.
You did the interview with Ty before you were concussed.
I did not. However, this young man brought enough of a smile to my face that I was able to grin and have a good time and have a conversation that, doesn't involve me dropping words that need to be beeped out by Hutch. We had a good conversation, a good chat. And I think as much as we talk about the draft pick and the status with the Canucks, let's not forget, just signed his first contract. And it's a big moment as he gets into it with us, talks about, how big that is compared to, say, the draft.
Looking forward to it. The Sense Arena VR feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast. Ty Young from the Prince George Cougars standing by with a much more casual Kevin Woodley on the podcast.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast. First time guest, but a guy I've had the pleasure of talking with a couple of times over the past couple of summers. Met him the first time after the Vancouver Canucks drafted him at last year's draft, and again this summer at the Net 360 goalie camp. Ty Young, Canucks draft pick, Prince George Cougars. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Kind of catching you on, as we were just saying, the end of a sort of whirlwind here. You come off the summer, you go to prospects camp, you go to a Young Stars tournament with other prospects, you go to main camp, now back to Prince George, you sign a contract. Congratulations on that. What's the last month been like for you?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a whirlwind to start the season off. You come to PG and you do training camp, kind of get in it here with the guys and stuff, talk to them and how their summers have been, and then you go straight to Pentic, turn it away, and you get in a game there against all their prospects and other teams' prospects and stuff, and then you go off to main camp and stuff too, and try to prove yourself there. And ended up going well for me there, and I was able to prove myself, and they kind of gave me the contract offer, and then you just come back on the same day you sign that and started going with PG and just play the next day. So it was definitely a whirlwind, and but it was great.
Don't know how much you're keeping in touch with your agent through that process. Did you know the contract's coming on the same day as you said? We sort of, on the media side of things, we get this release that, they're sending these guys back, and probably not a surprise to you, just given your age. But then 30 minutes later, we get a release saying there's a contract. Did you know, but when you had the conversation that you were headed back, did you know the contract was there?
Not completely. It was going a little bit back and forth and stuff. So, I knew there was talks about it, but I wasn't too sure if it was going to kind of get completed before I went back, or maybe late around Christmas time or whatever. That's what I was kind of thinking. But it was good to kind of get it started off the season right, I guess. So, yeah.
Where does that fit? Just out of curiosity, I don't know that I've ever asked this question of all the guys I've talked to over the years, but when we think of getting drafted as such a big moment, where does getting that first deal fit, in comparison?
Yeah, it's got to be pretty high. It's kind of started you getting paid big bucks for doing the sport you love. So it's such an honor and a privilege to kind of get a good chunk of money for just doing what you do best and having fun with it. So it's a pretty good feeling, yeah. Okay,
so did you have to buy when you got back to PG? Dinner? Anything?
I haven't got it yet, so I haven't bought anything. I haven't seen my family even yet, either before or after signing it. So I'm sure I'll definitely have the next supper with my family, and then even if we go out with some of the guys here, I'm sure
nice.
I'll have to cover it. Yeah.
Okay, so there's been so much. You started working since we first met, you started working with Adam Francilia off the ice. That's how we met you at Net 360. Obviously, exposure to Ian Clark and Marco Terranius through the Canucks organization. But I want to rewind it a little bit. Let's let get our audience a chance to get to know you a little bit. Grew up in Alberta. How'd you become a goalie? Where did this all start?
Yeah, I just grew up in a small little town in Alberta, just outside of Lethbridge. Not really any big names coming out of there. Just kind of small town, just minor hockey, and kind of started being goalie just from, I don't even know. You just play initiation, you get rotated through, and everybody wants to be goalie then, and then usually it doesn't stick, but I guess it kind of stuck for me. I was always asking the coaches to go play net, and you just have fun with it. You kind of love those big moments. That's what you kind of strive for when you're in goal. I think that's what lots of the goalies' answers are for when they get asked, why do you like being goalie? It's just you can be a game changer. So you just kind of love that role on the team, and then it's just kind of stuck, and played minor hockey for most of my kind of younger years. Didn't start playing elite hockey till bantam, so a little bit of a late sprouter, which was it was pretty cool, I guess. Usually you kind of hear stories of guys that were kind of highly touted from a young age, went to the brick and stuff. But yeah, during that, I was just kind of playing like all the different sports in school, just kind of not really knowing that hockey was going to be my thing until later. So yeah, it's just pretty cool.
Now, did you have a guy growing up that you emulated or that you watched closely from a goaltending perspective on TV in the NHL or junior? Who was your guy?
Yeah, you got both of them on the wall behind you right now, Luongo and Price. So yeah, like I watched Luongo all the time just because my favorite team was the Canucks growing up. Like my family lived, like my grandparents lived out on the island and stuff. So they kind of put the Canucks culture onto me from a young age. And then, yeah, I think even just all the young Canadian goalies loved watching Price in the Olympics and stuff. So he kind of fell in love with him there too. So yeah.
Okay, so rewind because you've told me that story, but let's share it with our audience because there's probably people scratching their head a little bit. How does a kid from small town outside Lethbridge, how's he not talking about Mika Kiprusoff? How does he become a Canucks fan?
Yeah, I went out to my grandparents one summer for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and the playoffs were going on around that time too. So, my mom and my brother loved the Flames. So when I went out there, I was kind of cheering for the Flames and stuff, of course, and my grandparents just kind of showed me the team a little bit. I kind of fell in love with like Bieksa, Burrows, Luongo, the Sedins, obviously. So yeah, like it was kind of crazy to come back a Canucks fan from that summer. But my mom and my brother still were Flames fans, so it was always a debate in the household of when those teams played and stuff. So, but yeah, like it's just a crazy feeling. So.
What'd you love about watching Luke? Because I mean, you're talking to a fellow fan right here. Like you know, may have got to cover him, but as a journalist, was also just a big fan of him as a goaltender. I remember when I started playing the position, watching him play, and just like wanting to go play hockey the next day after watching him. What was it about the way he played that resonated for you?
Yeah, he just loved the game. I think like he's just so exciting to watch. Just not like obviously the not most like orthodox goalie, not your stereotypical. This is how you do it. He just had fun with the game, and he just makes you want to make all those crazy big glove saves and his windmills, and yeah, like he just makes the game look fun, and you just want to go play it.
Now, where at what point does it start to get a little more? So you mentioned bantam, goalie coaching influences at a young age. I know, you know, from the Calgary area, I've seen David Marcoux, former Flames goaltending coach, give you some shout outs on the social media during various big moments in your career. So who were some of the influences from an early age that sort of helped you go from late bloomer to WHL to NHL draft pick?
It's definitely the goalie coaches like Marcoux and stuff growing up and stuff. I didn't go see him a whole lot throughout like minor hockey. It was kind of like a later age where I really started to go see him lots of times throughout the summer and stuff. And then, yeah, like I think my biggest change in opportunity was in the bubble. Getting to go to the bubble year with the Cougars and stuff at 15 years old and skating on the ice every day with like Taylor Dacres here. Having that full-time goalie coach there every day, just getting bagged on the ice, getting those workouts in, just getting the touches. I think that was kind of like the biggest like turning point in my career and stuff. So like it's just like a big thank you to the organization kind of giving me the opportunity there, because I wasn't a high bantam draft pick either. I was just 8th round. I wasn't supposed to be like the big next kind of starting goalie here. It was just another pick, I guess. So going in the bubble, you just want to take every opportunity I got there, and I think that was kind of the biggest turning point in my career, I'd say.
What for other young goalies that might be sort of around that same age, what advice would you give them? Obviously, the bubble's a unique experience, and you get access to a high level goalie coach, WHL goalie coach on a regular basis. But what in your game changed? Like, what was it about the work you did with Taylor at that point that allowed you to make this jump?
Yeah, I think lots of it is just kind of being a lot more serious with each rep you do. You kind of take those drills in, and lots of the time, like before, like in normal practices and stuff, you kind of just go through the motions. You just are out there just to be out there, and not actually like thinking about what you can get better at, and kind of drilling into yourself. Yeah, like that's fine, but I really need to get better at this and this and this. So when I got there, he was like, yeah, this is what we're going to work on. And then this is the drills that we're going to do it. And let's focus it on it like within those drills. So I think just kind of like having a lot more intent with yourself, I think is probably one of the biggest things, and realizing what you need to work on and have a little bit of humility within that. And just, yeah, like mostly that.
Can you give me an example of what one of the things was that you guys drilled down on, maybe more so than others?
Yeah, I think lots of it was my posture.
Okay.
When I first started, I was really, really low and got a lot of like pretty wide and got stuck in a lot of spots. And we tried to narrow my stance up a little bit, just kind of move freely when pucks go across crease and stuff. So I think that was probably one of the bigger things.
And that's something that we've heard a lot of right up to the NHL, right? Like if you're too low, too wide, too soon, you're not mobile enough in a game that is increasingly east-west. I know probably a lesson you've heard since being drafted by the Canucks. Easy at times for a guy like me to talk about it, but what was the process like for you to get comfortable with being narrower? Because, a lot of guys talk about, yeah, okay, I understand the principle, but it also brings you higher off the ice. And some guys, they feel more locked in when they're low and wide. What was that process like for you to get comfortable with playing narrower?
Yeah, it was difficult because I think the biggest thing you have like a challenge with is the like kind of shot preparation when you are narrow, because you kind of feel like you're not as ready for a shot when you're locked in and wide. You feel so ready for a shot and you feel like dialed, but if they get that pass across, you're stuck. Whereas with your narrow, if they pass across, you're fine. But if they shoot right away, you're just like out of position. You're not feeling like you're tracking the puck well with kind of nose over top of it. So I think the biggest thing was realizing like when to get set and when to kind of set your feet and be locked in for that shot, like kind of reading the shooters a little bit better and kind of adjusting your height difference. You don't want to kind of stay so high when the shot's coming. You want to set your feet and be ready for a shot. Whereas like before, you just get so locked in and so dialed that if that pass across kind of wet, you were kind of stuck. So
you find a happy medium in your stance, and is there a process? And because I know, listen, like other kids are probably going to have to go through this too, or maybe going through it right now with a new goalie coach that's asking them to do the same thing. I think sometimes that transition from high into set can be a little tricky. Sometimes we can do it in a way that almost becomes a tell, right? Like players will wait, like, okay, boom, as soon as he widens out, now I'm moving the puck. Was there something that helped you make that transition easier, whether it was a thought in your mind or a drill or something that just made it a little smoother for you going through it?
Yeah, I think lots of it was just doing drills and stuff, kind of learning to trust your footwork was like the biggest thing for me, because like if you can outweight the shooter, I think you're gonna kind of have like success in any league you're doing. Like the hardest thing as a goalie is trying to beat the pace of the play, and when you're kind of setting your own pace and you're determining the pace of the play, I think that's when you like kind of become an elite goaltender. So yeah, like lots of it's just working on drills. Like one of the biggest things in practice is that I learned that like the Clarky and Marco told me was, no matter what in practice, you work on it. If it like their thing is, if it's a deke, you shuffle. If it's a pass, you T-push. And I think that was one of the biggest things, because in practice, if you fail, it's practice. It's going to happen. So even off 5 foot passes in front of the net, you're T-pushing on it. Like just no matter what, have that ability to T-push on those passes. And I think that was kind of like the biggest thing that helped me, is just if you get scored on practice, try to do it. That's how you get better. So yeah.
Can that be tough sometimes too? Because to not focus on results in practice, especially as a young guy, to make sure you're focused on the process and not get caught up in results, especially, I love that answer, because a lot of times, as we know, practices aren't necessarily ideal for goaltenders, but it doesn't mean we can stop trying to find ways to get better within that environment, even if it's not specifically for us.
Yeah, exactly. Then even in practice sometimes too, like you got like a coach looking at the goalies to see who's going to start on the weekend. You don't want to like look back, trying to work on stuff too. So it's kind of, you got to find that happy balance, and with like trying to like try new stuff out, get better like that, and trying to impress the coach at the same time. But yeah, like you just kind of have to find that happy medium in practice and really work on things that are going to get you better and yeah, get results.
Okay, so you mentioned, I'm going to rewind a little bit back to when you became a fan of the Canucks back there on Vancouver Island. You mentioned the Sedins, for example. You get drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, you go to do a development camp, and lo and behold, there are the Sedins. What's that moment like? When you where you're all of a sudden you're on the ice with these two franchise legends for a team you grew up cheering.
Yeah, it was unreal. I think I still have the picture on my phone when I was on the ice in Whistler for the first time with them when they're my first goalie ice and they were the shooters. I'm like, what is life right now, right? So, yeah, like it was just a crazy experience to kind of see that. And even like when I saw my grandparents came out there and watched me for that, and they're just like, whoa, that's the Sedins there too. So, yeah, like it was just kind of like a really cool experience for my whole family to kind of see that. And yeah, it just didn't feel real, and you're just so grateful for the opportunity to have with the organization and stuff. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Was it I mean, you're part of the organization now, and you got to be careful. But like, is there any point? Like, do you allow yourself at any moment? Obviously, not on the ice stopping their shots, but at any moment to sort of slip into fan mode with them, or do you have to just maintain that very "I am a player, I am here to be a player" mode when you're in that environment?
Yeah, I think like the first year it was kind of more just a little starstruck with them. You're too scared to go talk to them. Like, you don't know, like, oh, they're not gonna know who I am or whatever. But this year, I was definitely a little bit more comfortable. I went up and talked to them, and yeah, it's just kind of like cool just to like just chat hockey with them, and even just chat about stuff that's like outside of the rink and about like whatever's going on, right? So, yeah, like it's a really kind of cool experience. You never really thought that you kind of get to this point when you're watching them and on the TV when you're younger, right? So, yeah, like you just gotta take whatever opportunity you can because they got so much knowledge about the game and stuff. So,
It's
yeah,
also
it's
it's extra intimidating because you don't know. It's I don't know if you figured. I mean, I've covered him for 20 years, and there were still moments where I was caught. You don't know whether to say "Hey Daniel" or "Hey Henrik."
oh, I never, never. I don't know that I get you can't tell them apart. So, yeah.
Okay, what about experience on the ice? Hey, you mentioned Marco Terranius, obviously Ian Clark, who we were very familiar with here in Vancouver, and InGoal being based out of Vancouver and Vancouver Island. Obviously, we've done a lot of work with him and a guy I've known for years. That first introduction to those two and some of the things they do differently, what was that like, and how did you have to approach? Because I think there's probably a lot of kids this time of year, right? Like October, new teams, new coaches, they might be asking you to do something different. How did you approach these guys telling you, hey, we're doing it this way now?
Yeah, I think you kind of gotta. They were definitely a little bit different in some areas, and trying to implement some more stuff in my game that I wasn't too used to. And then those are the kind of guys that you want to impress, right? So I definitely took everything like a sponge there. And they kind of when I left camp there at Dev Camp, they give you a booklet of stuff that you want to work on and off the ice, and you're definitely gonna try to impress them with that. And I think that's kind of what like I did well from dev camp to main camp. They kind of listed off those points, and for the most part, I got better at lots of that stuff. So it was kind of good to show improvement with that. And then yeah, you just kind of definitely you want to. Their big thing is try to implement and practice what we kind of help you with. But when it comes to games, the game they use the term sandbox. The game's a sandbox. You just go have fun and play. And then I think that's kind of like the biggest thing I'm trying to learn right now is that yeah, like lots of their stuff is like the reverse track on the net play. Try to implement that in my game, but still not completely there. So in games, I try to just play my game, have fun with it, and then in practice, try to work on it. But yeah, I think that's kind of the hardest challenge right now is figuring out when to implement the stuff in your game or when to just stop the puck.
Are there other things that you've learned, like say tracking down, like a track down off the wing on a rush? They like little shuffles, whereas I don't know what you did before, but a lot of goalies still tend to flow in more straight lines backwards. Are there things like that or other examples where you did pick up on it quicker to the point where it became innate and you no longer had to think about it and boom, you're just doing it now?
Yeah, I think the track downs and even the kind of sub 45 alignment on the post and stuff, I think coming into the post and getting off that goal line, because before I came in pretty flat along the post, and I think I was too flat on stuff. So yeah, just that kind of alignment has gotten a lot better recently, and it's not even don't really have to think about it too much anymore. And my post play feels a lot better with that. So yeah,
was that I know they like you to come into the post sort of inside out, come in like hit the post from the inside rather than say you're at the top of the paint, say on the left side, and just pushing straight down to that post on, say, a recovery. They want you to swing inside. Was that something you were already doing, and that take a little time? If not, did it take a little time to get comfortable with?
Yeah, that took a little time because usually like the first thing you want to do is you want to get to the post as fast as possible and then adjust, right? And their big thing is you want to get to the post and not have to adjust and be ready to have your full toolbox set by the time you get there. So, yeah, I think that was definitely something kind of had to get a little used to. But yeah, it kind of came in. I think this summer I got a lot better at that. And then with the dev camp and then main camp, I think it's pretty solid in my game now.
Now, I mean, have you had moments now where that, like, again, because like they say, you want to go and play. You don't want to be thinking out there. You're too young to understand a Top Gun reference. Maybe now that there's a new Top Gun out, maybe I'll get away with it. But you know that old, if you think out there, you're dead?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was kind of talking about before with the sandbox. They just want you to, when it comes to games, they don't care how you stop the puck. They just want you to find a way to stop the puck. So and especially your team just wants you to stop the puck. They don't care how you do it too. All that matters is you win at games and stuff. So yeah, you just kind of gotta figure out the happy medium and that balance, and just kind of play your own game too.
Now, you know, it's funny. We see development camp and main camp, and guys will come and they'll learn things, and then they go back to their junior team. But I know with Marco and the role and the way they've set up the role as their AHL and development goalie coach, you know, there are times during the year where he doesn't travel with the Abbotsford Canucks, where he goes to see prospects. Did you get a chance to see him? And what does that support mean in season when a coach comes and pays you a visit versus, hey, the summers, they see you and then they see you again next year? What's that support like?
Yeah, he came out twice last year and came on the ice and watched games. And that support, like, it means so much just because, like, you weren't even signed at the time and they're still coming out to see you, right? So just kind of having that ability to bounce back your thoughts, and then just you feel like so comfortable with enough with them that you can just text them, hey, like in my game I'm feeling this, or I'm not sure what to do on this. They go look at the video for you, they break it down for you, and you just kind of have that like another set of eyes that you don't get all the time here. And yeah, like it's just such a kind of crazy feeling to have so many people all like on your side and wanting to improve and be your best like version of yourself. So yeah, like it's a great experience and opportunity to have them to kind of have all these ideas.
You mentioned video, working with guys like Marco with the Canucks. Where does it fit into your day-to-day routine with Taylor? Like, was it already something, you know, at the WHL level where you were breaking down your own game and watching for things? And are there ways you can use video to get better, even at reading the game? Yeah,
I think that's like one of the biggest things, trying to jumping from just like kind of midget hockey and bantam hockey to the WHL was just reading the play and understanding kind of what's going on. Like kind of just playing in bantam and midget, I never really thought about kind of what hand is the guy coming on the wing and what that means for if I go inside the post or overlap and all that stuff. So I think like one of the biggest things coming in was watching video and like learning what to do on certain situations. And yeah, that's kind of come like a weekly thing here. After the weekends, we'll watch like the clips and stuff and just nitpicking like every little thing you kind of want to work on and get better at. And then also you want to see things that you're doing well because you want to see your improvement and keep your confidence up too. So yeah, I think video is kind of a big part in the next, like at the junior level, and Marco and Dakers here have been great with that. So yeah.
When is it just you and your goalie coach there when you do it, or do you get together as a tandem? Is there communication amongst all of you, or are your games unique and different enough that it's just you and the goalie coach one-on-one? Like, do you ever bring in your partner and have those discussions?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the situation and stuff. Like if we'll split a game on the weekend, we both watch each other's clips, kind of to watch it like it through and kind of bounce like ideas off each other. And so far this year, it's just been me and Dakers in the meetings because we haven't had too much clips kind of go over yet, just kind of started the year. But yeah, in the middle of the year, we'll definitely kind of get together as a tandem and rattle off ideas and learn with each other there. So,
speaking of not a lot of clips, I don't think there were a lot of clips out of last night's game. 11. But there's lessons there, right? Like, how do you manage a game where you only see 11 shots? Have you developed things over the years to make sure you don't let the mind wander on a night like that?
Yeah, like even the whole kind of first start of the year, it's kind of been like that. Or I've been fortunate enough like that we've been playing really well like defensively, so I haven't had too many shots. And yeah, I think last night was kind of like a great little hump game for me because the previous two there was kind of goals and the late minutes of the game that weren't necessarily like game changing goals, but they weren't great for the stats. So yeah, like great last night there wasn't one of those, and you kind of get over that hump. And yeah, like it was definitely, it's a challenge because lots of the goalies, you just want shots, kind of keep you in the game at all times, and sometimes you're not going to have that happen. The biggest key is kind of making saves when, even though you don't think that's going to matter, it still matters to to you and your team and their confidence. So yeah, like you never know when it's going to come down to goals for and goals against. So every kind of goal matters.
Have you found a way to like not let your mind wander? Are there different techniques? Has anybody worked with you on little mantras, little sayings, breathing techniques, anything to sort of help you? Because you're right. Like everybody's like, oh, hey, it's 11 shots. It's an easy night. But we know as goalies, man, sometimes those are the toughest ones mentally.
Yeah, those are like, it's like my least favorite games are always these 11 shot kind of games, or even less than that. So I think like the biggest thing is just, even like the biggest thing that kind of helped me is just your movement and stuff in the crease. Kind of make it whenever like the puck's in your own, you take that time, even if it's not going to be a scoring chance, you move like it would be. Kind of be fast with it, kind of get that sweat on and keep that sweat on. And even if it's just a D to D pass in your own dots, kind of going to break out of the zone, you push over and push hard and fast. So you kind of stay in the mindset of the game, and especially with puck play and stuff too. Take the time to get out there, play the puck, just do anything to kind of keep your mind into the play.
Communication.
Yeah, exactly. Talking to the D, just reading the play as it's coming down. You're like, okay, I'm ready for all this. Read what kind of forecheck they have, just anything you can to kind of keep your mind in it.
Speaking of playing the puck, we played a game when we were in Kelowna, goalie tennis. You guys played that up there yet, or what? Are you guys like? It's starting to take off. I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys absorbed it up there too.
No, we haven't played it yet. I might have to tell Dakers in one of our goalie ices to kind of get it going. It's a fun one.
Now, advice for young kids, because you handle it pretty well back there. What? How do you work on it? How do you focus on it?
Yeah, like lots of the time you go out with goalie coaches and stuff, and you just work on skating and you work on pucks and shots and everything. Lots of the time you kind of, there's not too many coaches that are like, okay, let's work on puck handling. So yeah, like I think one of it is just kind of being your own coach and saying like, I need to work on this, and we'll sacrifice 20 minutes of skating for 20 minutes of puck handling, and you just kind of work on stopping rims, work on lifting the puck, work on your backhand, and yeah, like even in practice and stuff too, when you gotta get ribs and stuff, you treat it like a game and be very intent with it. I think is the only way you're gonna get better with it. Okay,
so how about your work with Adam as we wind this up? What have you noticed? Have you noticed a difference? Obviously, you know, we've got some video. We've had some video of you working up there with him. It's difficult. It's unique. It's different when he brings out that little wagon of his with all the different devices. Have you felt how and in what way have you felt the difference in your game?
Yeah, like I think even lots of his stuff is kind of keeping that core. Like he's all evolved around the core and the core stability and stuff. So yeah, you definitely feel a lot more secure and stronger rotationally in the crease. And I've definitely felt that. And then especially just hip mobility and stuff too. He's so good on just kind of maximizing your potential strength that you have within yourself. And yeah, like I think next summer I'm not too sure yet. I might be going up there a lot more, and even like potentially like going out there for the summer. So I think next year it'll be an even better kind of opportunity to see like maximize the most out of it, because I didn't get to see him too much this summer. But yeah, like in just a short time, it makes such a big difference.
I was gonna say there are worse place to spend a summer than Kelowna.
Exactly. Last one from me,
amongst the Canucks goaltenders, and there were some new names there. Obviously, Spencer claimed on waivers. Casey DeSmith comes in. Thatcher Demko. The opportunities you've had to be around those guys. You know, not knowing how much you had a chance to maybe pick the brains of a Thatcher Demko over the last couple of years. What are you looking for when you're around those guys, or when you see those guys? Are there things you pick up that are like, okay, I get it now?
Yeah, you just kind of like, even the stuff like off the ice, I think is one of the biggest things, because on the ice, you want to like kind of learn what they do on the ice and their habits and stuff, but you also kind of want to be your own goalie and have your own identity. You don't want to be an exact copycat. So I think like one of the biggest advantages is you look off the ice and see what habits and like off ice habits they have that have gotten to that point, and it's kind of like a common with theme with all of them is just how early they are to the rink, how much stretching they do, how much workouts they do, and how like intentionally like they are with every single ball warm up they do. Is like to be a pro, like people just see the things where, oh, I'm on the ice for an hour and a half a day, then you go home and you get to live the dream life, but you don't see them in the gym all the time and just kind of getting rehab and stuff done. And like off the ice, it's so intentful that they put so much time in, and I think that's kind of one of the biggest things.
It sounds like that actually reflects back to your time in the bubble with Taylor, like when you use the same word, intention.
Yeah, exactly. The bubble was like every day you didn't really have anything going on, so you're either in the hotel room just quarantining, or you're at the rink. So I was at the rink for most of my day until supper time. From breakfast till supper time, you're doing workouts, you're on the ice doing whatever and watching video and everything. So yeah, it's very useful to kind of understand what you're going through and not just go through the motions.
Love it. Love it. Hey, Ty, thank you very much for doing this. Really happy you could join us on the InGoal Radio podcast. Looking forward to seeing you again, whether it's down here with PG against the Giants, or again next summer at Net 360, or back at Canucks camp. Hopefully to see you in all three spots. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Been a while since we heard a beep. We returned to live scheduled programming, and here we are with Woody. Back to the bad mood. That was a fun conversation, interesting conversation that it introduces us to a goaltender that we're going to hear a lot more about this season on the major junior scene.
Do we hear about him on the world junior scene, Hutch? I haven't been paying attention to who the candidates are.
I have not seen any names bandied about yet. I would assume that his name will be at least in the mix, and it's just going to come down to how do people perform over the first few months of the season, because as we know, Hockey Canada does not host a goalie summit in the summer anymore. So these guys have not had a chance to come together as a group and work with coaches and show their stuff. This will be purely done by people scouting the games during the early part of this season. So certainly we wish them luck. I think, guys, this would, I'd have an interesting question for a few coaches at the NHL level now, because we often ask the question of each other, would you rather have your son or daughter playing on a great team that wins a ton of games, or would you rather have them playing on a weaker team where you face a ton of shots? And as Kevin brought up in the interview just the other night, I was actually watching the game that he played against Kelowna. Kelowna only got 11 shots on goal. Ty suggested there'd been some games of even fewer shots in that interview. With such a great team in front of him, I wonder how the Canucks feel about that as a development experience this year, and what other coaches at that level might think.
That's a really good question. To just digress a little bit, because I don't have an answer to it, and I'd never thought about it. We certainly see teams draft guys and ask them to come over and play in the WHL, the schedule being a little more sort of conducive to what they might see in pro hockey as a stepping stone compared to maybe the NCAA, where it's just games on weekends, and yet that gives you time to train and mature physically. So there's benefits to both. I've never asked that question. Would you rather have a guy on a good team or getting shelled on a bad team? It's fascinating. The one thing I do like, and Ty talked about it in the conversation we had about the way the Canucks are managing this, is having Marco Terranius, their American Hockey League / development goaltending coach, out and about and seeing these guys during the season. Now, there are a number of teams that do this, but not all. For several teams, your American League coach is just that, your American League coach. And so if you've got prospects in college or junior, maybe you might have a scout see him, maybe not. Some of them are just left to their own devices. We've also seen it where, and this may end up being the case with the Canucks and Nikita Tolopilo, a young Belarusian goaltender who's 6'7", on the subject of size earlier, that's shown a lot of promise coming over for the first time in pro. If he ends up in the ECHL this year, just based on a numbers game and wanting him to play more, they've got a goalie coach in a setup whereby when the American Hockey League team goes on the road, those guys are trusted to manage their own development, and the coach can go see Ty Young in Prince George or wherever his team is, or can make a trip down to the ECHL. It always amazes me that quite often the goalies that need the most help from a development standpoint are most often left to their own devices, especially in the ECHL. Like, it's borderline absurd sometimes because they're the ones that need it the most. They're the youngest. They're transitioning to pro hockey. They've never been in North America. Several examples, and quite often they're left on their own the most. So I loved that the Canucks are doing that from their development model with Marco Terranius. Again, not singling them out as the only team. I know there are others that do it, but I also know there are others that don't. And it's always seemed a bit silly to me that you don't spread that love around beyond just the guys that you've got in the NHL and the AHL in any given year.
Where are you then on the idea of playing for a great team versus a team that's going to struggle, but you're going to get a lot of work? Hutch, as a father.
Well, I think that feeling has changed every year as I knock things around in my brain. And I think it probably depends on the level. I mean, Ty Young is not going to face only 11 shots a night for the entire WHL season. I think this is more of an academic question. I think as you get up to higher levels, you're going to face competition at every level in every game or most games. So they'll still get that experience. But I would like to hear the NHL response to that regardless. For me, it's really, there have been times I believe that playing on a great team would still be a really good thing if the practice time is used well, because then you are probably facing the best shooters in the league 5 days a week or 4 days a week, whatever your practice time might be. But that practice time would have to be used well, because I don't know that it helps you a ton to face a bunch of rush drills in practice. I mean, much like we've said before, just sending your son or daughter out to play goal in a skills session, which are often begging for targets, I don't know that's going to help them a ton. So it would need to be well-used practice time. At the same time, if the league is too low of a level with the I shouldn't say low level, but, younger ages, playing for a weak team might get you a lot of shots, but is it giving you the sort of looks you need to develop? Is it giving you predictable plays? Is it letting you learn to read the game of hockey because things are so wide open in front of you? So I think those are really tough questions. For the most part, I'd probably like something in the middle if you could do that, but that's not really what the question is. Certainly, I think as you get up to a higher level, though, I'd probably rather than play. I don't even know how to answer that, because there is also value in being on a team where you can make a difference to be a winner. Just playing on a weak team that gets you 40 or 50 shots a night still doesn't put you in those situations where you've got to be there in the dying minutes of a game and holding your team in it. You don't
have game-saving saves or as often as you wouldn't have those as often.
No, but you also you wouldn't have the pressure.
That's exactly it.
So I think that the mental side of it. So I haven't really, as I always do, Woody loves to point out, I haven't answered your question. I've just waffled away and brought up a bunch of interesting things.
You brought up counterpoints to both.
Yeah, I did. In the case of Ty Young, I think he's going to be just fine there, because there's a lot of good teams in the league. And, I was watching, actually, I texted you because your beloved Brandon Wheat Kings, who are having a fantastic start to the season as well, beat Swift Current one night, and then they got completely manhandled the next night. So this is also something. No sense. Well, these things happen in junior hockey too, though, right? So you're coming out of the third night of a back-to-back-to-back in some situations. In the case of playing in Prince George, you've had the worst bus ride, at least in the western part of the league, over and over. So you're facing some strange situations. I think Ty Young is going to face a lot of really good hockey teams this year. He's going to get a chance to play a ton of games, which is also really important, and ultimately probably give himself the opportunity to face a nice run in the playoffs as well to develop.
I can't give you an answer. I can't give you an answer on good team, bad team, because my team sucks. So that's all I ever get to play behind.
And the grumpy response.
I want less work, and I want to have fun. And I'm sending those vibes over to Woody. Less work and more fun. I want you to have some real good, solid outings with some smiles this week. You know what? The funny thing is, like my team does suck. Like, we suck. We're old. We're just getting absolutely rolled this year. But even why do you move down a notch? Yeah, you know what, Darren? There may have been a tirade-filled rant directed towards the commissioner recently that probably should have cost me a few games as well. So I've asked that question.
But honestly, like, there's no pressure. When you go in, you know, like, you're playing a team that's like, you can sort of play loose and you can have really big moments. And I've had some great games this year, despite the fact we're getting like pumped, like just pumped. Like we're not even touching the puck in some of these games. Shots are 20 a period, things like that. And you're just like, you're actually feeling pretty good. You get a little fatigued because I'm old, but to Hutch's
I think we've
point,
answered this question through this answer.
But
you want to be on the good team.
But to Hutch's point, like, you can feel really good, and actually feel like you're playing real well, and there is no pressure. But that's kind of a bad thing. Like, there is no pressure. There's at no point am I worried about one going in, you know, because the reality is we're not scoring one.
Yeah, in the end, it's not going to matter.
No, exactly. Because at the end of the night, it's going to be 45 shots to 12, and we didn't have a chance. So if I can keep it close, that's all I have to do. And that's not. I would imagine if I was a young goalie trying to actually have some type of career as instead of just being an old crappy goalie trying to stand up at the end of the night, I might be a little worried about that, because there is no pressure moments within those games. There's no sort of, man, final minute and it's tied. I've got to make sure I buckle down here for me to sort of process mentally and learn how to handle.
Yeah, the difference between a breakaway in the final minute against you and it being a 1-goal lead and you're trying to save that lead versus it being 6-2 game is very different.
Well, first of all, we never have two. And second of all, the breakaways aren't typically limited to one man at this point. Did you say a crappy goalie or crabby goalie? Crappy
Yes.
and crabby.
Okay.
I touch both categories these days, my friend.
Gosh.
Can't wait till the Canucks Autism Network tournament where I can put all this happiness on display in front of a bunch of alumni.
Jeez. I think ultimately it comes down to, I'd be okay with my son or daughter being on a really good team if you're in a league where pretty much anybody could win on any given night. There's weaker teams in the league, but they could still win. But a lot of that concern has come over the years, because you'll see some youth leagues where there's a team that just doesn't lose, and often gives up 10 shots to the 40 or 50 they get in a game, and that's not a positive thing overall for development.
We got to fly. Woody, take care of yourself, my friend.
No hockey for a little while, so I will.
Maybe know nothing for a little while. Maybe we don't limit it just to hockey.
It's a fair point.
Hutch, you and I have never been closer. I think we've really bonded over this. And good job on the beep. That was I'm calling it right now. I don't know what we ended up for a total, but that was a podcast record.
Do you want to know what a neurocognitive drill is in our world? It's being able to hit that beep switch as Woody comes. Yes. I got about a 1/10 of a second to hit it.
Thanks to Ty Young, Cam, and you for listening and having some fun. If you get a chance, send Woody a note, whether it's on the X or the Instagram or straight to InGoal Mag. What is our website over at the InGoal?
InGoalMag.com.
InGoalMag.com. Yeah, that's easy.
Or what most people do in the world today is they go to their web browser and type InGoal Magazine and it pops up. So,
all right.
You don't even need addresses anymore.
Just be positive, a pat in the back, a hug, a high five, a fist bump, a slap in the pads. Send him one of those as we'll join you next week. I wish you could see his face right now, people. Next week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Love you both, guys.